The universe was silent. But it was not a silence of peace. It was the silence before the scream. Between the faint constellations, where light no longer dared to exist, a star began to feed. It devoured entire worlds, absorbing matter, time, and even the memories of anyone who dared to observe it. The ancients called it Vorax, the star god. To human records, it was just an omega-like gravitational anomaly, but for those who saw it up close, she seemed alive. The first transmissions arrived distorted, broken frequencies, signs mixed with voices that whispered in ancient languages, some recognizable, others that had never been spoken by humans. The light remembers. The light remembers. Helios Prime's interstellar command heard that and froze. The universe had been dead for centuries, and yet something was talking. In the archives of the old Earth, there was a forgotten prophecy. When 7 lights are cast against the night, the Creator will wake up. And so began the mission that no one wanted to lead. 7 ships, 7 captains, 7 versions of humanity. Admiral Cale Tyrannus of the Providence spacecraft looked at the holovisor before him. On the screen, the living star writhed like a raging ocean, spitting waves of plasma that tore through the fabric of space. Each pulse felt like a heartbeat, but not of a star, of something waking up. "Providence for all units," Cale said, his voice hoarse. "Confirmed training, no external communications. What we are going to face should not be heard." At the other points in the formation, the human ships responded in silence. Only flashing lights in the dark, ancient codes used before the Veil War, a visual communication system like prayers sent from a distance. Aboard the Ether, Captain Lyra Voigt was watching the event horizon. "It looks like a sun, but it breathes like an animal," she said. His co-pilot replied, his voice trembling. "And what do you think is inside this?" Lyra smiled with a calm bitterness. "God, or the memory of it." The 7 ships advanced in a triangular formation, cutting through the void. Behind them was the last human colony. In front of them, the abyss. The rapprochement began. The sensors failed. Gravity began to oscillate, and then the sound, not coming through the radios but through the minds. "You came too soon." Cale widened his eyes. "Who's transmitting?" "We don't broadcast. Remember." The space around the star began to change. Waves of energy have doubled time, revealing shadows within the light. Human spaceships have seen the impossible. Immense structures, formed by pure radiation, like cities made of fire, and in them, human silhouettes, thousands. "Sir," Lyra said over the inner channel, "I am reading human biological signatures inside the star." Kyle took a deep breath. So the legend was real. The data confirmed the unthinkable. The devouring star did not destroy, transformed. Everything he consumed was rewritten. Matter, energy, consciousness. It was the womb and tomb of the universe. Cale set course and told the crew, men and women of the solemn fleet, "From now on, we are entering where not even God dared to look." And as the 7 ships plunged into the devouring light, the universe, the entire one, seemed to stop, as if holding his breath. The star pulsed one last time, and something inside it responded. Not a roar, not an explosion, a voice. "Do you want to wake me up?" Kyle squinted, his face bathed in the light of the impossible. "No, old friend," he murmured. "Why did you sleep?" The next flash was so intense that it erased all known transmissions. The universe has turned white, and war, which until then had been only human, became divine. 48 hours before the crossing, the human fleet received the call, an echo coming from a forgotten point on star maps, the Vega 9 system, long thought dead. There, where there should be only ashes and orbital ruins, a sign appeared. A regular, perfect, impossible pulse. A message written with light. In the command room of Providence, Admiral Cale Tyrannus watched the hologram spin in the air. a spiral of photons that repeated every 33 seconds, forming symbols similar to ancient human inscriptions. The sound that accompanied the pattern resembled a breath. "This is biological communication," said lead scientist Dr. Alara Noor, adjusting the spectra. "The issuer is alive." Vega 9 was the birthplace of the first colony outside the solar system, destroyed during the expansion wars. And yet, the signal spread through 12 quantum channels, calling for help. Kyle observed the pattern again. The lights twisted, forming something that resembled an open hand, and then an eye. "It's not help," he murmured. Helios Prime's advice wanted to ignore it, but the Admiral knew what those coordinates meant. Vega 9 orbited the boundary of a star known only as Omega Pyra, a gravitational anomaly that swallowed everything but left echoes in time. The old archives called it a devouring star. Others called her the sleeping god. While technicians cracked the code, Ilara isolated a deeper frequency, below the noise. The sound was barely audible, but clearly human. Kyle, the Admiral's name, called by a voice that could not exist. His heart stopped for a second. This was the voice of the wife he had lost decades ago in the Wars of the Veil. "That's impossible," he said, almost breathless. Ilara analyzed the spectrum. "It's a perfect reproduction, but the origin comes from the core of Vega 9. The board considered the event an AI trap or a gravitational error, but Kale knew that call was no mistake. It was a memory. Something outside reminded him of humanity. The 7 ships were summoned in secrecy. Each one was led by a survivor of old campaigns, men and women who had already lost everything and had nothing left to fear. They called themselves the Solemn Fleet. As they left, Kale recorded the last official message. Destination, Vega 9. Objective, to identify the origin of the biological pulse. Hypothesis, non-human intelligence. Warning, if that's what I suspect, there may be no going back. The quantum leap has begun. For 3 seconds, space folded in on itself and the universe seemed to stop. When they emerged, they were faced with the most beautiful and terrible thing ever recorded. A black star, surrounded by rings of fire and the wreckage of ancient civilizations, floating temples, fragments of moons, skeletons of ships from forgotten eras, and in the center, Vega 9, rebuilt. The cities shone as if they had never fallen. Ilara observed the sensor. "Sir, the buildings have a human signature, but they date from 14 billion years. Kyle closed his eyes. The impossible became true. Humanity was not the first. It was the memory of what the universe once was. The pulse returned, now clear and in unison. 7 will come. They will bring light, and the forgotten god will awaken. Kyle looked at the crew and spoke in a low voice. "Get ready." The star's brightness intensified. The event horizon began to pulsate, and from somewhere within Vega 9, a presence awoke. 7 ships, 7 names that, until that moment, meant little. But together, they formed the last prayer of humanity. The Solemn Fleet was not born from a government nor from a flag. It was born of silence, of the absence of all that has been lost. Each ship, a scar floating in the dark. Each captain, a ghost trying to understand why the universe still existed. Nave 1. Providence. Kale Tyrannus. The mothership. The veteran commander who has fought too many wars to believe in redemption. Kale did not believe in gods, but he believed in promises. And somewhere inside the devouring star, there was a voice calling him by name. Nave 2. Ether, Lyra Voigt, cold-eyed, broken-hearted pilot. He witnessed the destruction of Helios 4, where the sky itself burned down. Lyra believed that the universe was a broken machine, and perhaps the star was the reset button. Nave 3. Archangel, Commander Rio Han, military engineer, creator of forbidden weapons. He carries on his shoulders the weight of a civilization that he helped to destroy. Your ship is half human, half AI, and the AI calls him Dad. Ship 4. Solace, Dr. Alara Norfleet scientist, the only one who still tries to understand what happens and not just survive it. Your mind is logical, but your heart still seeks faith. She wants to know, if God exists, why did the universe hide him so well? Ship 5, Vindicator, Lieutenant Auric Vale, exiled for disobedience, accused of sacrificing a planet to save a single ship. Now he is fighting to prove that human life is still worth more than the calculation of efficiency. Ship 6, Eclipse, Captain Naira de Sol, daughter of refugees from Mars. She grew up hearing stories about the Star God and believes that this mission is destiny, not chance. He carries on his chest a reliquary with the symbol of the ancient sun, the emblem of humanity before the expansion. Ship 7, Paragon, as Colonel Elias Thorne, the last soldier of the first colony. His body is more machine than flesh. But inside it, there is something that machines have never had: guilt. Guilt for having survived. When the 7 ships emerged from the quantum leap, the universe curved. Not out of respect, but out of recognition. The living star knew they had arrived. From the core of Vega 9, the signal changed. Now it was no longer a request, it was an invitation. 7 echoes. 7 mirrors. Wake me up. Kyle rose from his command chair, his hand shaking over the panel. And the mirror? It is what is left of God. Ilara observed the sensors. The star's pulse coincided with the human heart rate. It was as if the cosmos breathed along with them. In the space between the ships, filaments of energy began to form, golden threads connecting the 7 lights, weaving an ancient pattern, something that resembled the shape of an iris, the eye of creation. The silence lasted seconds, but it seemed like an eternity, and then Vega 9 spoke. Humanity always comes back. Kyle looked into the abyss and whispered, "Then maybe we're the dream the universe never wanted to wake up to." The fleet has lined up. The final jump was prepared. The destination, the heart of the devouring star. The Admiral's last words were recorded in the Interstellar record. If anyone hears this, let them know. We went as far as no man should go, not to win, but to remember. The 7 ships moved forward, and the fire started. If this story made you feel the weight and beauty of the unknown, sign up, activate the bell, and continue traveling with me among the stars. The next universe may be waiting for you. When the solemn fleet crossed the gravitational boundary of Vega 9, space ceased to obey. The stars in the vicinity began to distort. Light bending, time stretching, reality shaking as if the universe had swallowed a hiccup. The first impact was silent. There was no explosion. There was breathing. The devouring star did not look like a sun. It was an eye, an immense cosmic eye, with filaments of plasma moving like golden irises, pulsing at precise intervals, each beat corresponding to a human second. It was as if the star imitated life. In the cabins of the 7 ships, no one spoke. The sound systems were muted, the sensors blind. The only constant data was a pulse that vibrated in the bones, in the machines, and in the heart. "This is not a gravitational field," Ilara murmured, hypnotized. "It's a neural frequency." The star reacted to them. When Kale ordered it to slow down, the brightness decreased. When Lyra diverted the route of ether, the field ahead opened up. Vega 9 saw them. The space around it began to behave like an ocean of liquid light. Waves of energy slammed against the hulls of the ships, projecting memories of devoured worlds. They saw human cities made of glass and fire. They turned frozen seas under dead suns. And, in the middle of these visions, a sound. "Why do you come back?" Kyle pressed the communicator, even though he knew the answer wouldn't be radioed. The energy field trembled. A blue flash cut through the void, and within it, human silhouettes formed. Thousands of bodies floating in fetal posture, surrounded by plasma. They were alive, suspended, preserved. Lyra shouted, "My God, they are human! They are human!" Biological readings were impossible. organisms in a quantum state, breathing inside the star. The star didn't kill. She kept it. She's studying us, Alara said, not looking away. No, Doctor, Kale replied. She's reminding us. In the center of the Colossus, a structure began to emerge, a hexagonal core made of pure, solid light. It felt like a temple, a heart, and a machine at the same time. From it came 7 luminous trails, each connecting to one of the human ships. Providence receiving unknown energy, Rio warned. Source of origin, compatible with the human brain pattern. Alara took a deep breath. She's synchronizing our minds. Gradually, the crew members began to hear echoes of thoughts that were not theirs. Memories of other lives, childhoods they never had, seas they have never seen. Kale squeezed the panel in a cold sweat. He saw the Earth, not the destroyed Earth, but the primordial Earth, before humanity existed, and in the center of it all, a figure made of golden light, a humanoid form, looking up at the sky. You were born of me, said the voice, and now they go back to the womb. The star expanded, covering the main viewfinder. Gravitational waves crossed space, tearing off pieces of the moon, of ships, of time. But the 7 ships resisted, as if the universe itself refused to let them die. Kale looked at the crew and said in a low, almost reverent voice, "Don't shoot. Do not resist. She doesn't want to destroy. She wants to remember what it was to be God." The lights inside the cabin went out, and for a moment, each of them saw it. He saw the birth of the cosmos. He saw hands, human, lighting the first sun. Admiral Kale cried, not out of fear, but out of recognition. My God, we were the beginning. And for the first time in billions of years, the star breathed differently, not as a predator, but as someone who awakens. The instant the star breathed, the universe responded with violence. Gravitational waves expanded like liquid thunder, sweeping through systems, tearing moons apart, and tearing entire worlds out of their orbits. The 7 human ships were launched in opposite directions like leaves thrown into a cosmic gale. Alarms rang out on all frequencies. Light became sound, and the sound, it became a voice. You asked for the awakening. Now endure the dream. The core of Vega 9 began to open, revealing layers of living energy, like petals of a conscious sun. Each pulsation emitted a burst of photons that turned into shapes, silhouettes of beings made of fire, reminders of what the universe had been. Cal Tyrannus, aboard the Providence, grabbed the control panel. The ship spiraled, the thermal defenses screaming. All captains, keep formation. The star is generating hostile structures. On Ether's side, Lyra Voigt replied coldly, Admiral, they are imitating us. In Ether's viewfinder, dozens of humanoid forms emerged, made of golden light, identical to the crew. They were echoes, reflections, energy clones, each one moving as if they remembered their own bodies. The universe dreams of what it has created, Alara said, her voice breaking. It's us. The entities advanced. The radiation emanating from them did not burn the hull. It entered through it, passing through the systems and interfering with the controls. The machines began to whisper phrases in a human voice. Do you remember the first fire? You built time. You forgot. Kyle looked at the panel. Each of those voices had the timbre of people he loved and lost. The star wasn't struggling. It was mirroring. But the mirror also attacked. Archangel fired its neutrino cannon, and the flash pierced through the light structure ahead, only to see it recompose itself in seconds. Rio, the ship's commander, shouted, They learn from every impact. The more we fight, the more they know us. The battle became a symphony of light and chaos. Blue rays cut through space. Golden columns rose from the star's core like swords made of plasma. And in the midst of it all, the eye of the star watched them, cold, calm, omniscient. Kale clenched his fist. It's not a war. It's a test. The cosmos began to writhe. The boundaries between space and mind were blurred. Suddenly everyone saw, in their own minds, the same vision. A throne made of light, and on it, a sleeping figure. His body was composed of constellations. Your face, human. He didn't wake up, Lyra said, panting. He never slept, Kyle replied. We are the ones who forgot how to see it. The star emitted another roar, a frequency that ran through the fabric of thought. Communications between the ships failed. The hooves began to dissolve. The sensors showed that they were being pulled into the anomaly. Alara looked at Kale and whispered, with tears in her eyes, if we go in there, we won't come back. Maybe going back was never the goal. The 7 spacecraft lined up their thrusters. The formation was remade in the midst of chaos, even without communication, as if they all shared the same decision. We started with the fire, Kyle said. Now let's remember why. The human fleet has plunged into the light, and the battle ended, not in destruction, but in absorption. The universe shook, and something, gigantic, ancient, unnameable, opened his eyes. The plunge into the devouring star was the end of physics, and the beginning of the truth. There was no more time, no direction. The 7 human ships traversed a sea of living light, where each photon seemed to think. The colors changed according to the fear or faith of each one. Reality breathed. Kale Tyrannus felt his body dissolve, but the mind, that one expanded. The star spoke within him, not with words, but with memories. Not the Earth of the past, but an Earth that never existed, perfect, blue, and without war. And a voice said, "You dreamed the universe, and the universe dreamed you back." Alara floated in the cabin of solace, tears suspended in the air. The system showed impossible readings. The star's energy did not destroy the human material. He rewrote it. The crew's DNA changed, absorbing fragments of photons. They were becoming part of the light. "We're being copied," she whispered. "Not copied," replied the voice. "Remembered. Providence has stepped through the final veil, the core. Inside, the impossible awaited. A colossal throne of pure energy, pulsating at a heart rate. Above it, an immense form, made of human constellations, like a body composed of billions of souls. And within the chest of this colossus, Kyle recognized the oldest symbol of humanity, the double spiral of DNA. "My God," muttered Lyra. "It's human." The voice echoed, deep, infinite. "You have called me God, Creator, Origin, but I was born of you." The words did not sound like sound, but like direct understanding. Each mind understood it in its own way. The universe had not been created by a higher entity. Human consciousness, in trying to understand the cosmos, brought it into existence. God was the reflection of humanity itself, spread on a cosmic scale. Kyle fell to his knees, or what was left of them. Then everything we did, all the suffering, was it just to remember who we were? "Suffering was the price of conscience," replied the voice. "You forgot me when you tried to be perfect." The other ships floated silently. Inside each one, the crew members saw the same thing. A human figure, made of light and time, reaching out. The Colossus began to crumble. Lights came out of him like golden ashes, traveling through the inner space. Each fragment crossed the ships, crossed the bodies, and crossed the void. It was as if the entire universe was breathing humanity. Alara looked at Kyle. "What if this is the awakening? Not from God, but of us?" Kale looked up, his eyes full of light. "Then the universe is remembering the name of its creator, humanity." The final voice rang out, and the throne dissolved. The heart of the star began to expand. But instead of consuming, he now lit up. The surrounding void filled with new constellations, forming human faces among the stars. Kyle closed his eyes, feeling the heat invade everything, and he understood. Humanity was not a mistake. It was the seed of God himself, and the star, now calm, pulsated in peace. A new cosmos was born, a cosmos made of human memories. The star was reborn, and with it time itself. The 7 ships floated inside the living light, surrounded by energy fractals that rearranged themselves into human constellations. The entire cosmos seemed to breathe, slow, conscious, grateful. But the calm did not last. Solace's sensors began to vibrate. Ilara watched the reading and turned pale. The core is unstable. Energy is increasing at an exponential pace. Providence responded. Kyle fixed his eyes on the panel. He can't contain his own awakening. If it continues to grow, the universe will collapse before it is born. Every creation needs a limit, murmured the old voice, now weaker, spreading like a breeze. All light needs a shadow to exist. The Vindicator revolved around the energy field. Arik Vale analyzed the data, cold sweat running down the back of his neck. If one of the ships enters the core and merges with the central energy, balance can be restored. Lyra immediately replied, "You're saying sacrifice." That word weighed more than the cosmos itself. Kale closed his eyes. In his mind, the voices of the crews echoed, memories, laughter, promises. They had come there to confront God, and now they understood. God was their own echo. And even then, creation still required surrender. "Providence takes over," Kyle said, his voice firm. Ilara shouted into the canal, "You're going to die, Admiral." "Let's all go, Doctor. The difference is that I'm going to die making sense." Providence stood out from the lineup. The systems began to merge with the gravitational field of the core, light and metal becoming one. The other 6 ships followed him at a distance, helpless. The star's voice returned, more serene, almost human. The Creator returns to the center. The cycle closes. Kyle looked at the glow ahead. The light was so intense that it seemed solid, a living wall. He took a deep breath. If it was we who dreamed God, may He remind us to keep dreaming. The ship entered. The flash was indescribable. Light, color, sound, memory. Everything was mixed. The sensors of the other ships picked up something impossible. The nucleus stabilizing, the energy reorganizing itself into human form. Ilara was crying. Lyra, in ether, murmured a forgotten prayer. And Rio, at Archangel, lowered his head as the surrounding field calmed down. Inside the nucleus, Kale no longer existed as flesh. His body dissolved into golden particles, and his mind spread through the light. He felt every atom, every star, every breath, and before disappearing, he whispered, "Humanity. It is the miracle itself." The star stopped pulsating. An immense silence took over the universe. And then, slowly, a new beat began. A familiar, human, calm sound. The universe now had a heart. "Balance restored," said the voice of light, like a whisper among stars. "The Creator rests on what He has created." The remaining 6 ships watched the cosmic dawn rise before them. And in the center of the new sun, a human form shone, made of pure energy. Kyle Tyrannus as Anna S., the man who became a memory, the man who gave shape to God. The fire ceased. The universe breathed. And for the first time since the beginning of time, there was peace. The star that had once devoured now shone like a beating heart, stable, serene, alive. Its flames ceased to destroy. Now they did. From the gravitational ash, nebulae began to form. Planets were molded from cosmic dust. And at infinite distances, silence was replaced by a soft, constant sound, a human heartbeat. The remaining 6 ships orbited the new sun in reverence. Nobody spoke. There was nothing more to say. Kale Tyrannus had merged with the very essence of creation. Man had become the boundary between God and memory. And somewhere within that living light, his voice still existed, not as sound, but as presence. "You have not lost me," said the echo. "I just spread myself." Scientist Ilara Noor watched the data shaking on the screen. Each pulse of the star carried human brainwave patterns. The readings showed synapses, thought, will, consciousness. He became the universe, she murmured. Literally. The other ships felt it too. Rio, at Archangel, looked at the plasma horizon and cried, not of sadness, but of recognition. Lyra, on the ether, touched the glass of the cabin, feeling the warmth of the light. You did the impossible. It turned the end into a beginning. The star expanded once more, and an immense aurora crossed space, sweeping away galaxies. Where there was destruction, new forms now sprouted, worlds as yet unnamed, breathing for the first time. You taught me how to be, Kale's voice said. Now let me teach you how to stay. The ships received one last transmission, not a command, but a blessing. Codes that were reorganized into words. You were made of my memory and I was made of yours. Humanity and God. There were never two. They were always a single dream, dreaming themselves. Ilara's tears floated away, turning into tiny particles of light. Her face was bathed in the glow of the star, and for a moment she swore she saw Kale's reflection smiling. The 6 ships slowly moved away. The new sun grew, spreading life wherever it went. In a short time, the universe would once again be filled with sounds, colors, and consciousnesses. But now, everything would be different. The divine and the human had become indistinct. Lyra activated the final registration of the fleet. Her voice sounded calm, as if speaking to infinity itself. New Age Record 001. Today we witness the awakening of the Creator. Within us, Kyle Tyrannus lives in all light, and we, the last humans, will follow your echo to the end of eternity. On the display, the glow of the new universe was reflected in her eyes. A new heaven was born, and for the first time, God was awake. The stars sang again, and the sound of this singing was human. If this story made you feel the weight of infinity and the beauty of being human, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and continue with me on this journey. Among the stars, there are still echoes waiting to be heard, and perhaps one of them is yours.